Hey everyone, George Christie here with Wine Industry Network. Welcome to another episode of the Win Educational Webinar Series. Today we've got a great presentation sponsored by Ekos. It's called The State of Technology Adoption, and it's going to be presented by Josh McKinney. Josh is the CEO at Ekos. Now, before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. As any of you have watched any of our webinars before, it's always our goal to make these as engaging as possible and as interactive as possible. So to that end, we always pre-record the session about a week in advance. However, Josh is in the room watching the broadcast live, just like you are. He's in the chat room, so he's able to take your questions as they come to you. So as you know, in a typical situation where you might watch 45 minutes of presentation and 15 minutes of Q&A, basically the whole session is one Q&A session. So, please take advantage of that. Josh is here, is able to take those questions. And again, we want you, if you're going to spend time with us, we want to make sure you get as much out of it as possible. So this is a super interesting presentation. And why don't I bring up Josh to the stage? Josh, how are you?
I'm good, George. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
So really interesting survey that you guys have done. I had a chance to go through the deck and take a look at some of the slides that you're going to be presenting. And once again, it's always interesting to look at the wine industry's adoption of technology and sort of bring it to life what a lot of us have talked about for long. We're just slow to embrace technology.
Right. Yeah, it's the second time we've done the survey, and both times we've got super interesting insights. And this year's no different. Some of the information is a lot of the same in terms of how the industry feels that they themselves are adopting technology. But then, as you'll see as we go through the presentation, it's also interesting to see what is considered technology within the winery, which is always an interesting conversation. But what we see is, there's a lot of room for improvement, and we'll go through the things that are working well, some things that we recommend can be improved on. But yeah, we're excited to go through it.
That's great, Josh. Well, listen, I'm going to let you take the stage. I'm going to step back. And once again, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Ekos for sponsoring these sessions so that we can push them out to the industry for free. Very much appreciate it. So without further ado, Josh, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Awesome. Appreciate it, George. Appreciate Win and all that you do as well. So let's get into it. So like George mentioned, today what we're going to go through is the state of technology adoption in the wine industry. So what does that mean? Very high level, especially as it pertains to wineries. So for some background on us, we build technology for craft beverage manufacturing, mainly focusing on alcohol. So what does that mean? Handling everything from your raw materials to your production process, to your finished goods, your selling process, generating your accounting information, as well as generating your TTB reports as well, because, I hate to take it from you. I know they're a lot of fun, but we help lift that burden. But what we see in the industries that we work in is varying degrees of technology adoption. So what we do is we send out surveys to each of the industries that we work in to see how are they adopting technology, what are the tools that are being used in the industry to help run the businesses, and how effectively are they being used. What we do is we take all this information together, put together a very comprehensive report, and with that, we have it on our website available to download. To get it, you can go to goekos.com/resource library. And there we have this report, which is 30 pages chock full of great information. It's great content. It gives a lot of good insights from Silicon Valley Bank, from others in the industry, from different quotes, from different winery owners, production teams. And we also have other things on there, other reports. We have recorded webinars referring to how to drive more DTC sales, how to get more people to your tasting room, how to make your operations more efficient in terms of production and inventory. A lot of great resources for you to be able to use and dig into. What we're going to go through today is mainly going to be around the state of technology adoption. So as we go through it, like George said, get in the chat, ask questions. If you're wondering about something, we definitely prefer this to be interactive. I'm here. The rest of the team is here too to be able to help out. So as we're going through, ask your questions. Now with that, we'll go ahead and get into who we surveyed. So we blasted out this survey. We got back 371 responses, and this is what the makeup of those individuals that responded looks like. 62% were owners and general managers, 16% from the production side of the house, 12 from sales and marketing, 7 from operations, and 4% from finance and admin. As we look at the production size of each of those companies, 28% was a little below 1,500 cases, 1,500 to 49,000, around 28% up to 50,000, around 33% of the respondents, and then larger than 50,000 cases, sitting at right under 10% of who replied. So this helps put the information that we're going to go through in context, and we'll break out some different pieces of this as it relates to the pieces that we go through. But this is the sampling size of the information that we're going to give you back. So with that, one of the main questions that we ask, we just want to know how you in the industry are feeling. And what we asked was, in the next 12 months, how do you expect your sales to change? What is your outlook for 2020, 2022, based on 2020 information? And no surprise, the industry outlook dramatically improved for 2021 as it was in 2020. 79% said the business improved, that it increased. A number of respondents said it was going to be the same, and very few said the business was going to decrease in the next 12 months. So this is good. Everyone is feeling more back to normal, whatever normal is anymore, in terms of day-to-day business operations, tourism coming back in different parts of the country, getting more toward a place of the way it used to be. But then we're also going to see what those other indicators, what those other pieces of tech as well as business are going to stay moving forward, even as we get as close to normal as we possibly can. Now, with that, we also ask, what are some of the current challenges that you are facing in the industry? What do you feel like you're hitting walls in your day-to-day operations? You're hitting walls in the industry with other pieces of the business. These were the 6 challenges that came to the top. These were the 6 main ones that all the respondents felt were affecting their day-to-day business. The first one being just supply chain crisis and economic concerns. So what we're hearing from a lot of you is just supply chain shortages of bottles is going to be the biggest factor in increased prices, is going to be the biggest factor in actually getting your product out to market. That's also going to come into insurance cost and how that's going to bleed into the increased price of wine, possibly making insurance out of reach to even pay for the winery, depending on where you're located. But there's all these different things, throw inflation in there as well, that are putting a lot of pressure on the industry. So you throw a supply chain that's in disarray along with all these other factors, and it's just very top of mind for all of you and for the respondents. The next is distributor consolidation. So different groups buying up different groups, in some senses pushing some smaller labels out, giving less prominence on the shelves, and actually be able to get your product in front of consumers. So with all this consolidation, these different distribution groups buying up other groups, consolidating the entire catalog, it's just hard to get your brand out there, to get in front of people. So that doesn't help. That doesn't help the sales side, right? Next, climate change. Climate change has always been a part of the wine industry, but it's lately has been more so of a factor than others. And it's just hard. It's hard to manage the vines. It's hard to get them to a good place to be able to make wine. It's hard to get them to a good enough place to make good wine. And as all these different weather patterns and stuff kind of take hold, it brings around a source of anxiety in terms of how that's going to affect the wine downstream. But then it also brings up opportunity for other wine growing areas in the country to be able to get their product out in front of people as well. So there's the climate change overall bad. It's opening up some opportunity in some other parts of the country because of it. Next, and this one was something that we got a lot of comments on in the responses, and it was changing consumer demographics. So now that there's more of a younger generation of wine drinkers coming into market, those future wine lovers are going to look for more, fun and friendly drinks and experiences, and they're going to demand that the wineries change to that as well. So what does that mean? Being accessible in terms of the branding and in terms of the product, and also being affordable. We've seen a lot of brands over the years switch to cans in some ways to get their product in more people's hands in different environments, whether it be concerts, picnics, whatever else. But then also kegging wine, which we've seen an increase in on our side. But then just the accessibility of the product. From our perspective at Ekos, we see a lot of people that are interested in wine and the different variations of it and learning more about it. But there's also this side that's, is it accessible to me? Not even on the price point, just based on what can be a stigma around the market. But that is changing. More and more brands are pushing their messaging, pushing their marketing out into different ways, as well as putting the branding up to be accessible as consumers and potential consumers walk by it on the shelf and make them want to reach for that bottle and take it home with them. The next is the push into digital. So this is all the things. This is pushing into the e-commerce space, pushing DTC more, but also knowing how to do that, how to do it effectively. We're going to talk about some of those things, some of the tools and the softwares that you can use to help you get more into this market. But that digital piece, it goes to having the tools online to be able to sell your product, but then it also goes into getting in front of your potential consumers and existing consumers, making sure you're top of mind for them, whether it be on social media, whether it be through email marketing, taking that in and having it in your overall DTC strategy. You got to make sure you have all those pieces at play. So while some brands have been quicker to adopt this than others, this is a piece where you, as a winery, will be able to stand apart from others if you're focusing on these things. And the next is just growth and expansion. So what does that look like? It's as a winery, if you're an estate winery, do you have enough grapes to be able to hit your production goals? Or that goes in the climate change piece. Are you going to be able to harvest enough to be able to hit that? Are you having a hard time sourcing juice from other providers? There's some abundance of some in some places, but then in others, it's hard to come by. So it's making sure you're getting the right juice, you're getting the right wine to put in the bottle, to put on the shelf. But it's also a real estate factor. As real estate becomes more expensive in certain areas, do you have the right tasting room in place to be able to get consumers to come to you? All these things are factoring into play, especially as the world is opening back up and getting to a place where more and more people can visit. Are you doing the things that you need to be able to do to be able to handle that influx of customers? But then what does that growth look like? Are you happy with where you're at today? Are you wanting to grow? But what's the path to be able to get there? Now let's wrap the tech into all this. So what we see from tech adoption, really, how would you grade your business on tech adoption? This is what we asked the wineries. And as you can see, this is actually the same as it was last year. A B- is what everyone came back with overall for the average. So what we saw was 14% of the respondents out of the 284 that answered this specific question, full technology adoption is how they felt. B, 42% rated themselves as a B in tech adoption, 36% for C, 6% for D, and F, 2% for no technology adoption. So what we see is this is lower than we see in other alcohol segments. So we work with breweries, cideries, and distilleries as well. This B- is the lowest in terms of tech adoption throughout those other industries. And this is what we see that factors into that. One is just very siloed and disconnected systems. So that goes from the technology side of the house, but then that also goes just to communication within the winery. You think about siloed, disconnected communication is the production team having effective communications with the sales team, with operations, with the DTC team, with the tasting room team. Some places, all these are just one big happy family, one big team. Others, there's a lot more employees and there's a lot more disconnect within the business. So what happens is where that siloed communication comes in, that also leads to siloed systems being in place as well, and just lack of efficiencies in the process in terms of just getting the grape from the vineyard all the way through to bottle and then getting out to market. The next is archaic systems. So older technology being used in a modern technology world. Systems that aren't cloud-based that should be cloud-based. And what I mean by that is, are you able to pull it up whenever you have a cell signal or a Wi-Fi signal? Are you able to pull up the software on your phone? Are you able to get real-time information from these systems? Or do you got to go back to the office and sit down in front of the computer and pull up everything, and that's the only place you can access it from? Having that archaic technology that doesn't help anyone, that doesn't help the business move forward, help your employees, or help yourself. And that leads into this last piece, is just real-time visibility into data is lacking. That goes to being able to have the accessibility piece, but then also having a good range of tech adoption throughout the winery. That goes all the way from the vineyard all the way through to the consumer. So making sure that the right pieces are in place all the way through the process is key. As we go through this, don't expect a full-blown sales pitch for Ekos. Our goal and hope is for you to just be more efficient in your business. We exist because we want you as a winery to be as efficient as possible. We know that you didn't get into this business to sit behind a computer for 10 hours a day, that you started this winery either from your family through multi-generations, or this is a passion project that you wanted to get into, that you wanted to build community around your product and your brand and what you're putting out into the world, not to just sit behind a computer. So for us, we want you to find what's best for you and use the best systems that fit best for your business. This is the intent of this information, is to show you what your peers are doing and some areas of opportunity for that, so that you can find what fits best. So now here's the tech wineries can't live without. I love this question for a couple of different reasons, but one is the variety of tech that we get back and what that looks like. So as you can see, in terms of the tech wineries can't live without, number one, coming in strong at 22% is spreadsheets. Everyone's favorite. For us, spreadsheets are good for math, but they're not good for running a business. They're good for data input, but they're not good at getting insights out of it. So for us, this piece is not surprising, but it's also a source of frustration, because we want you to run your business effectively, and sometimes you just can't do it with these spreadsheets. Next, point of sale coming in at 19% and computer coming in at 19%. So this is one of those pieces that is interesting. Whenever we talk about tech, a lot of times, being a tech company, we're talking about the software. We're talking about the software that helps you run your business, your day-to-day operations, get the most out of your employees and your business. A lot of times, whenever we ask this question out to the markets we work in, these are the kind of answers we get back, in terms of, well, it's my computer is a tech I can't live without, which makes sense. But then it's also, you can see a number at 17%. Cell phone is a tech you can't live without. On the left, you see the word cloud. These are the biggest respondents that we had to each of these questions. And you can see QuickBooks, spreadsheets, Excel goes into that, computer. And then as you start to dig deeper into this, you see more pockets pop up in terms of what you can't live without, from production software, inventory software, your forklift. You got to be able to move things around unless you break your back. E-commerce tools, accounting software, Adobe, MailChimp, Orderport, Wine Club software. There's a lot of variety in here, but a lot of times what we see is this tech piece is thought of more as the thing that enables the software, not necessarily the software that helps you run your business. So with all these, there's just a huge disconnect in the pieces that can talk to each other, and where the efficiencies are that can be gained. But what that means is there's a huge opportunity for just tech adoption and innovation in the industry to be able to pull all these pieces together to get a holistic view on the business. So with that, let's get into the specifics on the tech stack. The first thing that we're going to talk about is production and inventory software. So what we asked, the first question was for Vineyard Management. What Vineyard Management software are you using? 80% of the respondents, as you can see from here, are either using spreadsheets or no software at all. We can see the main response was 46% for spreadsheets. Second, coming in at a strong 40.9% is no software at all. The assumption there being that notebooks, pieces of paper are being used. And then down below that, we can see coming in pretty close together, AgCode, Innovent, AMS, and then other. But this is pretty typical. This is what we see in terms of the vineyard, what's being used to keep track of the different blocks, the vines, what's being put on them, just the inventory of the grapes after they come through. It's widespread, but the majority of the market, majority of our respondents aren't using anything at all for this. That feeds through into production and inventory. So what we found through this question for what are you using to manage your production inventory, more than 40% of the respondents are using spreadsheets for production and inventory. I've already explained my disdain for spreadsheets, so I won't get on my soapbox anymore, But to go through the rest of these pieces, for Vineyard Management, like we just said, 46% on spreadsheets, 41% no system. For production and dry goods, here coming in strong again, spreadsheets at 40%, 13% no system, 7% homegrown, your own thing. We see a lot of tech people in the wine industry as well as the other industries that we work in. A lot of you are very crafty, which is awesome to get your own systems in place. But then after that, QA, QC, where this breaks down is 50% of the respondents using ETS labs to get that information back, 23% using Scott Labs. Again, no system coming in after that. And then case goods inventory. So the vineyard, production, QA, QC, that's one thing. But then for case goods inventory, 45% of the respondents using spreadsheets, 11% no system, 5% using some variation of QuickBooks, whether that be online or desktop edition. Now, to get deeper into what we just went through, on the left for this production and dry goods piece, what you can see out of the respondents, right at 40% using the spreadsheets, no software, and then we see a wide variety down through here on the rest, and then this other bucket. Over here on the right, case goods, majority using spreadsheets. Coming in at a strong number 2, yet again, no software, and then we see a wide variety after that. So I feel like you all know this, but I'm gonna say it anyway, inventory is one of the most crucial parts of the business, actually knowing what you have. And since it is managed in spreadsheets or nothing at all, it just leads to a lot of disconnects in the business. How many times have you wondered if what additives that you have sitting in the warehouse or elsewhere to be able to put into the wine, packaged goods? Do you have enough boxes to be able to fill up the wine bottles for the wine club that's going to be coming this Saturday to pick everything up? It just leads to a lot of errors throughout the process, a lot of inefficiencies. So with the human error, with asking Joe or Sally, hey, how many do we have of this? They give you one answer, someone else gives you another answer, and then you're left not even knowing what the reality is. The inefficiencies just in lost productivity. Think about how much time you're having to recount the same things every single week because you may have wrote it down in a place, you lost that piece of paper. You may have wrote it down on a whiteboard and someone erased it. You may have, again, talked to someone and they gave you an answer and it wasn't the right one, but now your counts are off. You don't even know what's going on under your own roof. So just the inefficiencies that cause and having to redo work. Then also leads to lost sales opportunities. So how that feeds all the way through the process is, does your tasting room have enough product to actually be able to sell to people that are coming through it? Are you going to be prepared for next weekend when you're looking at the weather and it's going to be beautiful and you know that you're going to get slammed? Maybe you have a reservation software to where people have already booked in those appointments and you know how many people are going to be there on that day. What about the people that may swing by? Do you have an opportunity for them to be able to just buy anything at the tasting room without going through and doing the tastings and the tours and everything else? There's a lot of missed opportunities here by just not knowing your inventory and what you can push out into that segment of the market, but then also not knowing what you can push out into your club to be able to have the most uplift to the business through that channel. Now, what I found interesting here is, why technology? And this was a response that we got back, which, I just love. This is from a general manager at a Virginia winery producing around 10,000 cases. The response back was, I manage everything in spreadsheets. If I had a web-based system where I can input everything, have it tied to our sales system that would do all the calculations, it would save me a lot of time. There are a lot of steps where human error can take place when you do things in spreadsheets, which means I am often off on my inventory. I know I'm saying this, and I'm sure a lot of you are sitting there just shaking your head along like, yes, that happened this morning, and I was way off on something that I thought we had enough of, or we have way too much of it, and now I've got to figure out how to sell it and to get rid of it. Technology helps with these things. Technology enables these things. Again, it's about finding what's the best technology for you and your business, but it's making sure that you're using these tools efficiently so that everything runs together smoothly. So next, let's talk a little bit about DTC and retail sales. So with this, we asked what e-commerce providers are you using, as well as what wine club software are you using. On the e-commerce side, what we saw coming in at number 1 was VinoShipper at 21.3%. Coming in close second after that was WineDirect at 19.6%. And then we can see, once again, just a wide variety all the way down this list. What we see is a number of partners that are built specifically for the wine industry, like VinoShipper, WineDirect, OrderPort, Commerce7, Vine Spring, there's a number down through here, but then you also see systems coming in strong like Square at 12.5% on the e-commerce side. There's all these different variations. A lot of time that depends on what is best for your business, but this also means that there's a lot of research to do to find the right provider for you to be able to help you manage your business. So these are just the variations on these things. What we did see on this is that for the e-commerce and the wine club software, the larger wineries are more likely to rely on WineDirect, while smaller wineries typically leverage VinoShipper more for their e-commerce. On the wine club side, a lot of the same stuff. WineDirect coming in at 18% for the wine club software. Orderport at 14%, 13% spreadsheets, VinoShipper, Commerce 7, the list goes down. As you can see here, and this is an assumption on our part, but this is what we see in the data, e-commerce, 225 respondents for that, 124 for the wine club software. A lot of these are the same in terms of, are we using WineDirect for just our one-time bottles and our club management or not? These things do overlap, but what we see is there's just a wild variation, like I said. So a couple of pieces that I want to call out here, and again, if you download the white paper that this is coming from on the technology stack, you'll get some of these insights. A couple of insights that we got from our partners at Silicon Valley Bank, which have been great on getting some additional information on the industry. One of the things that they pointed out was that nearly 50% of wineries don't have anyone actually managing this software, this piece that we're talking about now, this DTC, this e-commerce, this wine club portion of the business. It's kind of been, set it and forget it, right? Sometimes that's a good thing. In this case, it's not a good thing. You need someone actively managing these sales channels for you to make sure that you're getting the most out of them. One of the examples I always give is you can put these stores up on your website. You can push people to them to buy stuff. But one, if you're not nurturing those people as they come through the process, whether through email campaigns, social media, phone calls, whatever else it may be, however you want to engage with your customers, if you're not doing that, then what's the chance of actually getting a return buyer? If they're buying your product, they're enjoying your product, more than likely they're going to buy more. So how are you nurturing those people? You need to have someone dedicated to looking at this. But then after this is set up on your website, you need to be pushing traffic to it. You can't just put the website up and hope that people are going to come to it and hope that people are going to buy from you. You need to be leveraging all the social media platforms that you can to get in front of potential consumers and existing consumers to get them to buy more of your product. You need to be leveraging Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if that's where your people are. A lot more wineries are using TikTok now. There's just all these different variations on getting in front of people. You need to meet your market where they are and drive them to your website. Once they get there, make sure you're nurturing them to get them to buy more. Your marketing strategy should play into this. Work with your sales team, work with your marketing team, get the right people in the room to talk through these strategies to make sure that you are pushing people to these different platforms that you're using, whichever one fits right for your business. So you are getting more dollars from this sales channel, especially if you're out in an area that more people can't come to you, or you are being directly affected by this distributor consolidation and you're not able to get your product out in the market as much as you would like to, or you have historically. For shipping compliance, what we see here is a large piece of the market, at least in these respondents, 36% aren't using any compliance system at all. Next, 34% are using Ship Compliant, 23% using VinoShipper. You can see Avalara, Consultants, manually, and others coming after that. What we see is larger wineries tend to rely on Ship Compliant, while VinoShipper is doing a good job of servicing those smaller wineries. So this is a big part of it. Again, not just having the channel up, but make sure you're managing correctly and making sure you're not breaking any laws by shipping products to places where you shouldn't be. So make sure you're compliant in all these different areas so you can fully leverage all these systems, and using a lot of the software that we have here to help that process so that you're not having to do it manually. If you just went back and calculated the hours of doing manually on compliance, I'm sure there could be a lot of time and money saved with that. So next, point of sale systems. So this is your front of house coming through your tasting room. What are you using today? For the respondents that we had, 34% are using Square, 17% using Wine Direct, and then we start to see just kind of a general distribution across all these other systems going through here. Now, the big thing here on this point of sale side is your point of sale talking to your inventory? So what does that mean? Are you connecting the data to the right places? Are you eliminating that manual reconciliation, and are you saving the time? Just think about a busy day going through the tasting room. My wife and I were recently out in Napa. We got to enjoy a nice fall trip and go through to a bunch of different wineries, and just the logistics that you all go through to keep your business going effectively as possible, especially with the number of visitors you can have at any given time, and then getting everyone through the tasting room and getting everyone through the shop to get all the different products is just amazing. Kudos to you all. But you want to make sure that while that's happening well, the systems behind the scenes are working too, to make sure your inventory is being counted correctly in all places, that it's syncing into one place, that the financials are syncing to one place so you know what's coming in, and that as these different individuals are coming through your tasting room, that you're getting as much of their contact information as you can to, again, keep messaging to them after they leave, push them back to your website, push them back to your club, and get them to buy more and more from you. With that, this is the view that we see on the world, connecting your system. So as we are inventory and production management sitting in the center, those items that are mapped up between these different areas allow you to have efficiencies in the process. From that point of sale and e-commerce, as you can see over on your right-hand side, with like an integration with like a Square or an integration with a Commerce 7, making sure that those clubs, those e-commerce channels are handled, that inventory and revenue information is being generated and being synced over to your system of record, which would be Ekos in this case, managing all the other parts of the business, and then syncing over to your accounting system so that your accountant, you're not having to pull random spreadsheets and manually do a bunch of reporting back to them to get them the necessary information to be able to get a good view on the business. You want to make sure that you're able to report in real time on a lot of these things, and connecting these systems will definitely help with that process. So next, for the tech stack, distribution and wholesale. So what does this look like? So out of the wineries that we asked, how do you distribute? On the left, out of 235 respondents for this question, 53% said via self-distribution. 46% distribution through third-party distributors, and then coming in at 16%, no wholesale distribution at all. Now, this is an interesting piece that I've found, especially talking to a number of wineries over the past year, kind of seeing coming out of the depths of COVID and how the business has changed. The self-distribution model has definitely picked up a lot within the last 2 years. With a lot of wineries doing what you can to get your product into people's hands. We've seen a lot of wineries in California move to this kind of self-distribution model of delivering directly to consumers if you're able to, if you have the right licenses in place, which seems to be a really good model in that sense, because you're taking out the distributors in that case of actually be able to get your product in front of people, but then you're able to get it to them sooner as opposed to shipping it, having to go through your fulfillment warehouse and then the next couple of steps. We have seen this number tick up a lot, especially over the last year and a half. On the right, what we can see is the winery distribution by production size. So we can see the self-distribution piece. The large wineries not depending so much on the self-distribution, which makes sense because they're mainly going to be pushing their product through distributors. But you can see as we move down, it becomes more and more important, move down in terms of size of the winery. We can see the more and more growing importance of self-distribution to get that product either in some of these small wine shops, these restaurants, these bars, or directly to the consumers. Next, distribution through third-party distributors. What we see here, heavy lean on the large side of the market, and then less reliance as we move down. And then no wholesale distribution. Again, smaller side of the market, no wholesale. You're doing the clubs, you're doing the online purchases, and you're doing the tasting room as your main form of distribution, your main form of sales. Next, what are some of the distribution trends that we saw from our respondents? Distribution states by size of the winery. Out of the respondents, 176 for this question. Extra small wineries, we saw about 8 is the average of states that were distributed to. And then what we see is as we move up in terms of size, the more states that are being distributed to. On the right, by the number of distributors, we can see that number increase as well with our average and our max going up the larger the winery is. For all wineries, the average is 12 distributors, with the max, again, being at 100. So what was interesting is 80% of the wineries use 2 or more distributors, and 47%, almost 50%, are using 4 or more distributors. We have seen this number shrink a little because the consolidation of distribution companies, especially out in California, but we do expect this to continue to, the number of distributors to decrease with this consolidation going on. Hopefully it's not going to affect you too much worse than it is already, but it is something that we think will continue to happen in the market in terms of that distributor consolidation. So next, for distribution and wholesale, what tools are being used to manage this side of the business? So for the first question, we asked, what CRM are you using? CRM standing for customer relationship management. So that's not just the sales order process, but that is the information on the people you're selling to, in terms of, like, if you're selling to the winery, small bottle shop down the street, what's that relationship like? Are you doing any events there, tastings? Are you doing any dinners planned? Are you keeping track of that information? You keep track of their preferences on the types of wine they like to buy from you, the main wines that they have on their shelf, like just everything about that customer that may give you more insights to be able to sell more to them. What we saw was 44% of the respondents aren't using any system for CRM. The CRM piece comes into big play, especially if you're looking at your e-commerce and club piece and you're wanting to nurture those individual consumers more than you are the retail wholesale side of the equation. The CRM can pay off big in that way, because as well as consolidating the information that these customers are buying from you, it also gives you an idea of what you'd be able to sell to them in terms of if you launched an exclusive wine club to get more dollars out of them. It'll help you get the information that you need to be able to make those decisions, to push those type of things out in the market and know that they're going to be a success as opposed to guessing. Next, 12% coming in at spreadsheets, 6% using QuickBooks. Top right, sales orders and invoices. Number one for managing this is accounting system. And we'll touch on that just a little bit more coming up in the next couple of slides, but 63% for that. 32% managing sales orders and invoices for spreadsheets. Here is my plea to you as an individual. If you're using spreadsheets to manage your sales orders and invoices, please stop. Please get it out. Please move it into either your accounting system, into another piece of software, but please get your invoicing functions and everything else out of spreadsheets. It just leads to a lot of bad problems in terms of compliance and everything else down the road. So please, if you get nothing else out of this presentation, please do that. Lower left, payments. How are you managing your payments? 28% said none, not using anything. 27% said check. 15% using QuickBooks, 9% using Square, and 8% using FinTech. Next, on the route planning side, what are you using for the route planning? We saw on the previous couple of slides, self-distribution kicking up, a good segment of the market doing that. But what are you using for the route planning? 68% said nothing. So it's using tribal knowledge on what roads are going to be packed at what time of day and avoiding those and getting your deliveries out at a certain time. 12% Google Maps, 8% spreadsheets, and then 2% using Wine Direct for this. Next, sales orders and invoicing. As we dig into this, the sales order management over here on the left side, out of the 176 respondents that we got from this, 93% said they're managing their sales orders through emails, calls, and text messages. This is scary. This is scary to me, especially when you look at the text message piece of this. Please have your employees get the main communication with your customers out of text messages and into some sort of system, even if it's email. Make sure that that's being done as opposed to using their personal phones, because that helps no one on the record keeping side. That helps no one on the demand coming in from the market to know what you could be selling to other people. If either the employee leaves, or worst case scenario, you have to fire them, all that information is going to go with them and with their phone. So please try to get that information out into other types of systems to be able to manage it. As you can see on the left, 15% using some sort of distribution portal or software, 9% through their own system, which typically fell into the Google Forms category, and then 4% using other. For the managing the sales orders piece with distributors, it's just very painful. You need to find out a way to free up your sales team's time to reduce the manual entry and the errors, have communication in one place, customize the products, and then don't worry about the spreadsheet uploads or anything else. I'll talk through this a little bit as we start to close out, but we released a product last year to be able to help with this process in terms of sales order management that allows distributors as well as individual retailers, bars, bottle shops to order directly from you in a system that connects directly into the Ekos inventory so that they can see how much is available from you and what they can buy at that moment. That communication stays in one place. You don't have to go back and forth and give them the catalog or the sales sheets or anything else. They're all in one electronic format, and it allows you to free up your sales team time to push more of the brand and do more events to get more loyalty that way, as opposed to just being an order taker. On the right, for the sales order invoicing systems, 14% using business management software, 63% on the accounting software side, and again, 32% on spreadsheets. Again, please do me a favor. Just nix it. Just get rid of the spreadsheets for your invoicing and your sales orders. Next, for the accounting analysis, as we look at this, Wineries Run on QuickBooks. This is probably a surprise to none of you. But what we saw is out of the people that commented, that responded back, 80% are using QuickBooks. As you can see here on the right, 42% of those are using QuickBooks Online, 53% are using QuickBooks Desktop Edition, and 5% somehow are using both of these systems at the same time. For a lot of you, you may have tried QuickBooks Online years ago, and maybe you didn't like it and you switched back to desktop. My recommendation would be give Online another chance. They've improved a lot of functionality, a lot of usability, and it's in the cloud. You can get to a lot easier. You don't have to worry about hosting desktop on an environment somewhere else where you can't even access it. Online is a lot better than it used to be. It continues to improve, and you can get to it from anywhere. So if you're using desktop, I recommend you take another look at QuickBooks Online. But then, as you can see on the right, make sure you're connecting this system, QuickBooks, to your business management software. That helps you eliminate manual entry processes, duplicate entry processes, saves literal hours out of your month, 10, 20, 30 hours based on your business of having to reconcile your journal entries, doing manual entries, doing manual reconciliation of inventory. It allows you to sync your invoices, orders, journal entries, and everything to the systems to keep all of that clean and concise. For the analytics piece, this is something that we see on the rise with different providers in the market, which is great because of the insights it provides. But what analytics or business intelligence tools are you using? So when I say analytics or business intelligence tools, what I mean by that is, are you using a system today that's taking all this data you're collecting? Hopefully you're collecting all this stuff. And is there something that's giving you the insights back to be able to make good business decisions? Either it doing it on its own, or it has a reporting system built in to then show you different pieces of information. For this quote on the left, this owner of a 4,000 case winery in Washington said, "I knew we needed to use technology to simplify and create efficiencies that would allow us to reach more people and offer quality customer service. I'm a data fanatic, so I always look for systems that will give me the right data and insights." That's one of the benefits of using technology, is being able to get those insights. So you don't have to manually pull it out of your spreadsheets, your paper, and try to make magic out of it. Some of these systems will do it for you. As you can see on the right, 47% of the respondents not using any business intelligence system, 45% using spreadsheets, 4% using wine pulps, 2% using Power BI, and 10% wide variety of things being in that other bucket. Analytics are very powerful when used the right way. Definitely see the different ways you can bring it into the business to be able to make better decisions for the business moving forward. Now, next, what were some of the key takeaways from all this information that we just went through? Again, a lot of this information and a whole lot more is in the paper that I referenced that this is coming from. That's on our website. So please make sure to go to goekos.com to read through it. But some of the key takeaways, as much as we don't like it, spreadsheets and manual methods are very pervasive in the industry. Software can help with these things in terms of accelerating your growth to give you insights and call out some areas that maybe you didn't pay attention to before that you need to moving forward. Next, technology needs are more complex as wineries grow. Think about it as your team grows. As the business grows, as it becomes more complex, as you have more stakeholders in the business, as you have more employees, technology can help with a lot of these growing pains that you're going through. So making sure that you're pulling in the right tools and systems to be able to help with these things, it can create efficiencies in your business to free your time up to focus on other things. Software solutions are disconnected from each other, making full business visibility difficult. If you're using all these different pieces of software to manage the different parts of the business, that's great. But you're going to run into some of these inefficiencies whenever you're trying to get this system to talk to this system if they don't connect together. Or if you're still using this system, you're having to export everything to Excel and pass it over to someone else and then go through it. Make sure that you're creating efficiencies in your process and not more problems or shifting where the problem is. And then for the last piece, owners and managers see the need for a centralized business hub, but few have one implemented. And with that, that's essentially what we at Ekos are striving to do. So our mission as a business is all about digitizing the craft supply chain. So what does that mean in practice? This craft producer, mainly where we sit in terms of inventory, production, sales, and accounting, helping you run your business in terms of your raw materials inventory, from the grapes that you're harvesting, the juice that you're buying, to the actual production process, sitting in the barrels, sitting in the tanks, getting it ready to go to market. Then the finished goods piece, the accounting piece, and then helping you with your TTB reports. These are the four main sales channels that we see. And our intent and our mission is to connect all these different pieces. I referenced it earlier, but we released a product late last year called Ekos Order Hub. What this allows you to do as a producer is it allows you to grant access to the people buying from you, to your inventory, to your product catalog, to the inventory, down to the packaging type, so that they can see what they can buy from you in real time, as opposed to having to call or email and say, hey, can I get this from you? Or does the fulfillment warehouse have this amount of information? It allows that interaction to happen in real time so that you don't have to mess with it. You can set that information. They see the variables that you set up in terms of the amount of inventory you have, what you want them to see, if you have any minimum orders on a certain product because it's going to be sell faster or be more expensive. You can set max items on it as well so that they can't overbuy from you. You set up all that. It allows it to run on its own. Those orders then come back in, deduct your inventory, and help you with that as you're running the business at the winery, at your warehouse. Below that, we see the e-commerce and club piece, tap room and tasting room. These integrations with Square and Commerce 7 help on this piece, getting those insights into the business to help those inventory levels stay as accurate as possible, as well as getting that revenue information as well. As we look to the supply chain, we are working on ways to connect all these different pieces to create efficiencies all through this process to help you have more efficiencies in your day-to-day, as well as what we're working on now is connecting you back to the suppliers for all your additives, your different materials, your packaging components, and everything else to make this process as seamless for you as possible. So our hope is, and our mission is, to get you to adopt different technologies to be able to help you run your business and to be more efficient. And we hope that even if you're not doing it with us, that you're doing it with someone to be able to help you grow your business and be better this year than you were last year. So with that, I just want to say thanks for joining us today. Thank you for your interaction in the chat. It's fantastic. We love the questions and everything else. If you want any more information from us, please go to our website at goekos.com. Please go to our resource library to get all the resources there, the recorded webinars and everything else for the pieces to help you run your business. And if you want to talk more, please feel free to reach out. I appreciate your time.